What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. Many of you have been asking me to drop a video on our newest undrafted free agent quarterback, Byron Peewee Jarrett, and he's anything but a Peewee. 6'4", 240 pounds. Even going back to high school, I've seen him marked down around 6 foot to 200. It's somewhere between 200 and 220 pounds. He threw for over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns in his high school career, and I believe that's only after playing 2 years, but still had 0 stars for recruiting, 0 offers at the D1, D2, or D3 level. But his story is one of perseverance. I actually think, honestly, he has the second best storyline at rookie minicamp this year, where we seem to be able to gather plenty of these guys. But we'll talk about the tight end, who I think has the best one, at a later point. Going into his collegiate efforts to try to make his way into the NFL, he ends up coming to Ellsworth Community College out of Iowa. He tears his labrum in his throwing shoulder, has surgery twice. In the midst of his first surgery and his second, he loses his grandma, who was really a steadying source for him, to cancer. Rest in power. And upon trying to come back from that mentally, then the rehabilitation, he ends up suffering from the COVID season as well. So he sees 2 additional seasons get pushed back. He ends up transferring to Iowa Central in 2021, which is where he earns himself the title of #1 JUCO quarterback in 2021 via a 9-2 record and Offensive Player of the Year in first team accolades. So he really put his foot on the gas and he was able to get things soaring. He parlayed that into transferring to Western Illinois for 1 semester. Figured out very quickly it was a bad fit. He wasn't going to be a central focus like he wanted to be, and he transfers to West Florida, a Division II school, where he helps them to a 12-2 record and the 4th best record in the country, and he breaks the rushing record for them. So this is one of those extremely small school guys that's very, very hard to find a lot of tape for, a lot of info. I was able to dig up a few old, like interviews that he did and stuff like that. But realistically, what are we getting out of him? It's kind of hard to tell outside of just the physical traits. I see the elite arm, and I do mean elite. He's one of those guys where you literally have to defend your man to the very last blade of grass in the end zone, because he can drop a bucket into the arms of anybody that's still sitting there waiting if you're just a step or 2 behind. He's self-aware enough to know that he probably fits best in a spread scheme, a little bit more defined coverages, being able to identify man versus zone, being able to have more defined targets depending on the weapons he has available to him. Played under multiple head coaches, offensive coordinators, and schemes, so he does have the fact that he can learn very quickly and apply that knowledge to the field, working in his favor. He's a winner. Obviously, interestingly enough, part of why he didn't get recruiting, major recruiting out of high school, or really any recruiting at all, is that he only was able to help his high school team win 5 games. So even with all of the accolades that he had, he didn't really have a winning background until he hit college. Then he was able to really help his teams excel. And he has good mobility, good leg power. You can see him keep things churning. Some of the things I don't really like, though, for all of his physical traits, he's had a sub 60% completion as a passer, which, as we know, there's a few things you can do to try to work around that and get better, but accuracy tends to be one of those things that you just don't wholesalely improve, no matter what level, league, and coaching that you're really going to. Not that it doesn't happen, but this is one of those things where it's safe to say the trend stands the test of time. He has a slow windup. There's certain things, I can't say he necessarily has a hitch in his throwing motion. I only saw a highlight tape, so that's really just going to put on a lot of what you really like to see. But it's not necessarily a flick of the wrist type motion that he's generating a lot of this power from. It's kind of like a sidearm windup, if you will, which makes sense because he did mention if he wasn't pursuing the NFL, he would probably be playing baseball. And I think you see that throwing motion quite a bit. And then he's susceptible to big hits, or at least I should say he makes himself susceptible to big hits Part of that was the teams that he was trying to help will to victories, but a lot of that is also just his running motion is very galloping, stampede-ish. He's looking to really just kind of barrel through some guys, almost in like a Braylon Allen type style, if you will. And so it's not something where he's going to last, especially considering he's already had plenty of wear and tear to that throwing shoulder. But he did throw out a few pro comps, and I think these obviously make sense from a physical standpoint. Cam Newton, Randall Cunningham, a lot of the traits in between may not be similar. Again, hard to tell with the very, very limited tape that was out there. But from a physical standpoint, there is, you know, for those guys that wanted a Joe Milton type player, this could be your guy. Now, obviously, unless he does something shocking to make you question, is it worth cutting a Jordan Travis and taking a Peewee Jarrett? I don't think there's any way we see him on this New York Jets roster, but I am hoping the man shows out and we keep him throughout the preseason. Hopefully he has some solid games and he can find his way onto a roster elsewhere, or even worst case scenario, maybe make a roster, very much so like we did with who was the little guy that we had running around? Chris Streveler. Maybe he can pull off something similar to that and hang around for a little bit. But I'm hoping he makes it. His story is a great one for those that love a good perseverance tale. But ultimately, let me know what you guys think. And by the way, for what it's worth, I did hear in rookie minicamp, he's already thrown quite a few bombs. We're talking 50, 60 plus yarders during rookie minicamp. That impressed quite a bit. So I'm sure the coaching staff is a little excited about being able to work with somebody that can stretch the field consistently. But again, let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you again. Peace.